Hi, my name is Bob Haas. I'm the author of the book, The Shape of Golf Plain and Simple, which is a book on how to hit the golf ball with the middle of the club face. The two most wants golfers have is number one, be more consistent, and number two, to hit the golf ball further. The best way to do that is to hit the golf ball with the middle of the club face. There are more ways to swing the golf club incorrectly than there are to do it correctly. I'm going to present to you the best way to swing the golf club, which is based on 4 definitively singular impact factors. I hope you enjoy the show. The purpose we swing the golf club is fourfold. Number one, we want the club face to be square. Number two, we want the golf club to swing straight down the target line. Number three, we want the golf club to approach the golf ball with a level angle of compression. And number four, we want to strike the golf ball with the middle of the club face. Having said that, let's point out there's only one square club face. Any golf swing can have a square club face. But to swing the golf club straight down the target line with a level angle of attack and to strike the golf ball with the middle of the club face, we need a certain look to the golf swing. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull this hula hoop over here and show you what that look's going to look like. Now, if the target line were the rope, this clearly is not going straight through. That's what we call inside-outside. This right here is clearly not going straight through either. That's what we call outside in. This right here goes straight through, but it's not going to have a level angle of compression. That's going to have an upward angle of compression. I call that inside to straight through, by the way. This is what I call vertical from the inside. It doesn't have a level angle of compression either. It does work straight through. Only this right here is going to have a level angle of compression, swinging straight through, and this would even strike the golf ball with the middle of the club face. The problem with this is a single arc. But before we get too carried away with this, let's explain to you what the observation point's going to be. When observing the golf swing, it's important to use the right proper vantage point. Sometimes you may have had golf lessons before where you had an instructor stand right in front of you. And not to say that's not sometimes a good observation point to find certain things in the golf swing, but the problem with it is it's two-dimensional. If you were to stand directly in front of me, when I were to hit golf balls in this direction, number one, from this vantage point, it'd be very difficult for you to see the golf ball fly if I were to strike balls in that direction. Number two, you can't tell me much about my posture. If I'm toward my heels right here or toward my toes, it doesn't look that much different. Number three, you can't see what the shape of the golf swing looks like either. The golf swing from straight on is two-dimensional. So you can actually see only up and down in the golf swing from this vantage point right here. If we're going a little bit inside out or a little bit outside in, it may not look that much different from that vantage point right there. The alignment's very difficult to see from there as well. But if we use a vantage point where we're parallel with the shoulders, and between the shoulders and the golf ball, that's the best vantage point. So if the target line were right there, that's the best target line to use, or the best vantage point to use when observing the golf swing. If I were to stand in this direction and the target line were the white line, the best vantage point again would be down this line. And if the white line were the target line and the body were lined up in this direction, the best vantage point would be down this line right here. Now the reason why is, number one, we can see where the golf ball flies. Number two, you can see where the alignment is to the right or left. You can see what the posture looks like. If we're leaning forwards toward the front balls or if we're coming back toward the heels. And best of all, you can see what the shape of the golf swing looks like. From right here, we can see what inside out looks like. You can see what outside in looks like. You can see what end to end looks like. And you can see if there's any asymmetry in the golf swing. But the golf club's not going to work on a single arc, and let's explain to you why. We're going to explain to you here where the ball is relative with the body when we get set to the golf ball. The golf swing's gone through an evolution, of course, but the golf ball position today is in the same spot it was on day one. And here's what I mean by this. When I get set to the golf ball, I want you to recognize that number one, the golf ball's to the side of me, and number two, the golf ball's on the ground. Because the ball's to the side of us, that means the golf club's got to work side to side. Side to side looks just like this. Now, if we were to swing the golf club like this, side to side, this would be a little bit more like a baseball swing, and this will work really well if the ball were on a 3-foot tee. But the ball's not on a 3-foot tee, it's on the ground. Because the ball's on the ground means the club's got to swing up and down. Up and down looks just like this. Now this will work pretty good if we could stand on this target line, but clearly we can't swing the golf club on the target line, the body's in the way. Therefore, in the golf swing, we need some side-to-side action, plus we need some up and down action. If we place this in a tilt, it looks just like this right here. Now the problem with this is one line works on one arc. And right here you can see that works back and through very nicely. And there's some balance to what's going on there as well. In physics, there's a term called precession. Precession basically means wobble. If you had a child's top, you pulled the string and placed it on a table, it would turn around perfectly. When it starts slowing down, it starts wobbling back and forth. That's what we call precession. Wobbly golf swings can hit perfectly good shots randomly. Nobody wants to hit shots randomly. Everybody wants to be more consistent. Therefore, we have to balance off the swing. Now, when I get set to the golf ball here, I want you to notice that I actually have two lines, not one line. Let's take one line from the golf ball to the shoulder, which I've done right here. This line right here can work on that single arc that I presented just a moment ago. When I get set to the golf ball there, I want you to notice how we actually have two lines here. I've got one line from the shoulder to the wrist. I've got one line from the club to the end of the golf club right over here. We have an angle right here. Because we have an angle right here, that means the golf club cannot work on a single arc. There will be multiple arcs in the golf swing. Let's show you what that looks like based on the dual arc angle. The dual arc angle. We're going to talk about multiple arcs in the golf swing here based upon the dual arc angle. When I get set to the golf ball, I want you to again notice that there's not a straight line from the golf ball into the left shoulder. I do have one line from the left shoulder to the wrist, one line from the tail end of the golf club into the club head. Now clearly there's an angle right here, and because there's an angle, we call this the dual arc angle. That means there's going to be multiple arcs in the golf swing. So basically when I get set to the golf ball here, I've got two lines right here. Two lines don't work on one arc. That's geometrically impossible. One line does work on one arc, and if you notice, the one line's from here to here, and that's where the single arc's going to be in the golf swing. If we grab this hula hoop right over here, this can represent the single arc in the golf swing. And we basically want the hands and arms to work up and down this arc right here. Remember, one line works on one arc. Now the way we attain this arc right here is if we pull the shoulder back as level as possible on the backswing, that gives us the in portion of this arc. If we turn the body through as level as possible, that gives us the in on the follow through. Now the hands and arms are responsible for the up and down. If I swing my hands and arms up and down and forget to pull the shoulder back, I'll have too upright of a swing. If I pull the shoulder back and don't swing the arms up, I'll have too flat of a swing. If I pull the shoulder back and swing the arms up, then I'm going to get the hands and arms to swing on the right proper single arc. Be very careful that you don't tilt your shoulders on the back swing. That will warp your single arc. So the dual arc angle is going to create multiple arcs. That's the single arc in the golf swings, the one the hands and arms work on. The shape of the golf swing should possess a certain pattern. Now bear in mind again, we don't have a straight line from the ball into the shoulder. We still have this angle right down over here. And because of that fact, the hands and arms are going to be working up and down this hoop right here. And if we notice, the golf club is actually out in front of this hoop. And the distance the club is in front of the hoop right here is going to be the distance we want the club behind the hoop at this point in time in the golf swing. Now the way the golf club works from in front of the hands to behind the hands have to rotate the club from in front to behind. There's going to be a wrist rotation from in front of the hands to behind the hands of the golf club. So the golf swing is going to be a culmination of three things happening. The shoulder pulls back, giving us the in portion of the arc right here. The hands and arms swing up, giving us the up portion of the arc. But the golf club is out in front of the hoop right here. The distance the club is in front of the hoop is the distance the club needs to be behind the hoop at this point in time right here. That's what I call the 180-degree position. We'll explain to that in 1 second. That's actually the moment the club changes directions. You can see that's going to be the full position right here where the club's nearly parallel with the target line. All great golf swings possess this sort of pattern right here today. The club works from in front to behind the hands. Now the golf swings that work behind the body too early at the professional level, those players have to reroute back to this plane on the downswing if they want to strike the ball with the middle of the club face. Other golfers at the professional level sometimes bring the club a little bit more up in this direction. They too must loop the club back on plane here to strike the ball with the middle of the club face. Today it's more important to hit the golf ball with the middle of the club face than ever before because that's where your ball conditions are optimum. Let's talk about what the 180-degree position is now. In the golf swing, there's 2 points that define a perfect golf swing. One's the 180-degree position, and the second point's your pivot point. When these 2 points are used in the right combination, we have a perfect swing. Let's show you what the 180-degree position is for starters here. A circle is 360 degrees all the way around. What defines a circle is number 1, it's round. Number 2, every 180 degrees it changes directions. So there's 360 degrees, and here's 180 right here compared to right over here. That's half a circle. Now what's so important about that is that's the point in which the golf club would change directions. So if my hand were the golf ball and my finger were the golf club, you can see my finger goes back only to the 180-degree position. Now it goes forwards again, backwards and forwards. So that's a point in the golf swing in which the club changes directions. As I swing the golf club up, I want you to watch how the golf club's going in and up, in and up, in and up, in and up, only to that point right there. That's the 180-degree position. That's the point the club changes directions. Now the club's parallel with the target line at the top of the backswing. Now notice when the golf club's at the 180-degree position, number 1, the club face is parallel with the ground, but number 2, the hands, they are not at the 180-degree position. So this is going to be the 180-degree position for the club on the backswing and downswing. That's going to be the 180-degree position for the hands on the backswing. Now as the golf club swings back down and comes back around on the follow-through, the club again reaches 180 right there, and then my hands will reach 180 degrees on the follow-through at this point right up over here. These are defining points in the golf swing, and the 180-degree position in combination with your pivot point is what's going to make the perfect swing. Let's show you what the pivot point now looks like. The pivot point is the single most important part of the golf swing. Without it, we can't get the golf ball airborne. When we use the pivot point in combination with the 180-degree position, we have a perfect swing. The pivot point is the moment the club turns left of the golf ball on the follow-through. So if the golf club were to be approaching the golf ball from this direction right here, it's coming into the target line. Now as it hits the target line, that's the moment we strike the golf ball, but the moment the club turns left to that line on the follow-through, that's the pivot point. And it's again the single most important part of the golf swing. It gives us the angle of compression. It allows the golf ball to make contact with the golf ball. If we swing the club too straight through, we don't pivot, the club rotates or actually swings up above the ball on the follow-through. We won't be able to get the ball airborne. The pivot point for the body is the moment the body turns over the top of the left leg. So it's a different point from the pivot point with the golf club. If you want to get a feeling for pivoting over the top of the left leg, place the left arm in the side of the body, rotate your right pocket over the top of the left toe. So what I'm doing at the moment here is pivoting. And that's the body again rotating over the top of the left leg. We want the pivot to happen as level as possible. Avoid tilting on the follow-through. This is not only very difficult on the lower back, it also causes the golf club to rise from the ground on the follow-through. So it's important to keep the club level to the ground for as long as possible, bearing in mind the golf ball is on the ground. The other way to get the golf club to pivot back to the inside of the target line on the follow-through is by the wrist rotation. So we actually rotate the wrist in combination with rotating the body over the top of the left leg. We optimize the amount the golf club comes back to the inside, which is exactly what we're after. Now let's show you how 3 things need a match in the golf swing. There's 3 things that basically need to match up in golf swings. Number 1, we have to get our plane to match to our posture, and number 2, we have to have our plane match with our grip. If those three things match up, that's when we get perfect action in golf. Here's what I mean by this. If our swing plane, basically the single arc in the golf swing, remember, is the one the hands and arms work on, and remember the golf club is whipping from in front to behind that arc. Now if we swing properly and we squat back too far, we have a very difficult time getting the club to the bottom of the golf ball. So golfers that sit back on their heels too much, they need golf swings that work up and down like this. So whenever you see somebody squatting back, we know their club has to swing up and down like this. The problem with swinging up and down like this is the reliability factor of hitting the golf ball with the middle of the club face is unreliable. We need swings that look like this. Therefore, we have to stand in a posture which leans forward more like this. This is more the athletic position right here, where the weight is leaning forwards. So the arc and the posture have to match one another, but also your grip has to match the arc as well. When we swing the golf club on the right proper arc, in this capacity right here, the golf club has more time to release than if the golf club were swinging more up and down like this. Golf clubs that swing up and down like this, golfers can get away with very strong grips. And if we actually swing the golf club more on track like this right here, then we have to have a little bit more of a neutral sort of grip. So your grip has to match your arc, and your arc has to match your posture. If we get these three things to match up, that's when we have perfect action in golf. All right, let's talk about the difference between hinging and rolling in the golf swing. In the golf swing, there's hinging and there's rolling that occurs throughout the golf swing. Hinging is this action right here, where the hands are going up and down like this. Sometimes that's called cocking and uncocking. The rolling action of the golf swing is this action right over here. And there's a combination of hinging and rolling in the golf swing. So as I swing the golf club up right here, the hands are swinging up and you can see the hands roll the club back. I have a lot of rotation in my golf swing at this point in time. And I'm out of my posture, so this appears a little bit flatter than normal, than if we were a little bit more down in the posture itself. But that's the correct action with the swing. This is what we say is on plane in the golf swing. Now if I were actually to take this visual aid right over here, and this represents the left arm, this represents the shaft of the golf club, you can actually see that this actually rotates backwards, and that's on plane at that point in time in the swing. As this gets higher, then the hands actually cock a little bit. Now for some of the tour players, what they do is they get a lot of hinging action in their golf swing early in the swing. So as their golf club swings up, it comes more up in that direction, but they all get right over in this sort of position right over here, the ones that are on plane. And that's easiest to hit the ball with the middle of the club face from there. But as the golf club swings down, the hands unroll and unhinge, and that's how we get the golf club back into the golf ball from right there. Make sure that you don't cup your wrist at the top of the backswing or bow your wrist at the top of the swing. It's okay to hinge them, which is this action right here, or to rotate them back on the backswing. Remember, they've got to rotate a little bit due to the dual arc angle in the golf swing. Let's talk about a couple misconceptions of the golf swing now. Let's dismiss some of the misconceptions you may or may not have heard in the golf swing. Sometimes you may open up a golf magazine and you see an article that says, get the shaft of the golf club parallel with the target line at this point in time in your swing. And sometimes these articles specifically say yes here and they say no there. It should actually be yes here and no there, and let's validate that to you for a moment. If you're getting the shaft of the golf club parallel with your target line at this point in time in your swing, that's a single arc mentality, which means this: if you have a single line from the golf ball into the shoulder and we swing this in and up perfectly, you can see right around hip height that gets parallel with the target line. If we swing this back down, this clearly comes nicely from the inside of the golf ball. So that's more or less a single arc mentality. Now bear in mind, when you swing the golf club, you have an angle right here, the dual arc angle. Now if we were to actually get the shaft of the golf club, or using this visual aid here parallel with the target line at this point in time in the swing, if we were to swing this down, this clearly works outside the target line back to the inside. So if we're getting the club parallel with the target line here, again, that works outside inside, which is a good way to start the ball to the left and hit the ball with the toe of the golf club sometimes. Now, if the golf club's over here where it belongs, you can see clearly that's not parallel to the target line at hip height. When I swing this down, that clearly comes from the inside of the golf ball. That's going to be more correct. So it's more correct to have the golf club here coming in from the golf ball. That comes from the inside of the golf ball. If we're parallel to the target line at this point in time, again, take a look at how that swings outside, inside. Now, another misconception of the golf swing is when the golf club's at this position right here in the backswing, sometimes that's called laid off. And this is actually short of the full position. You can see if this continues back to the full position, the shaft of the golf club would now be parallel with the line on the ground. Laid off means this. If the golf club works too far in front of the body in this direction and it points to the left at the top, that's laid off. The reciprocating swing path is one in which the golf club swings outside, inside. Now, if we swing the golf club up on plane, which looks just like this right here, you can see that's short of the full position right there. At the full position, the golf club gets parallel to target line. Now, this position right here looks similar to the laid off position, which is that position right there. They kind of have a similar look to them, but they're two different positions. That's just short of full. So at the short of full position, the hands are still behind the hands. Now, another thing you don't want to look at too much is sometimes we take a look at these swing robots that test the equipment. Don't study these machines either. Those are also single arc mentalities. What the manufacturer have done with the swing robot is they've actually have a single line from here to here. And what they've incorporated into these machines is this hinging action going sideways. Now, if we take a look at the swing robot from this angle right here, you notice that's a single arc right there. And the golf club has actually incorporated this hinging in this direction right here. And so sometimes the golf swing appears correct from straight on with these machines, but when we study the machines right over here, again, bear in mind, you as a golfer have this angle right here. Therefore, this has to work from in front to behind the hands, and that's no longer a single arc because we can't get two lines to work on one arc. I hope you found this description of the golf swing to be informative and helpful. Good luck to you in your golf swings.